Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul, and in this Red Gaming Tech.com video, we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up over the past 24 or so hours. And we're going to start things out with Nintendo, because the company have flat out denied that we will see new versions of the Switch launching at any point during E3 2019. This is contrary to reports from both the Nikkei, Bloomberg, as well as other places on the internet. Those reports have told us that multiple sources within the company have leaked that Nintendo are working on new Switch models, though it will be a slightly revamped version of the Switch we all know and love, and there's also going to be a lighter variant of the console, which, yes, it still will be dockable to your television, however, it is designed really around portability, and obviously we can expect it to be built most likely around the 12 or 16nm FinFET process from TSMC. I'm going to read out what the Nintendo CEO has said on the matter. While speaking to Bloomberg, the CEO Shintaro Furukawa said, and I quote, "As a general rule, we are always working on new hardware and we will announce it when we're able to sell it. But," and there's that word, "but we have no plans to announce it at this year's E3 in June," end quote. The wording from the company is chosen very carefully here. You'll notice that while they are denying that we'll see new versions of the Switch during June/E3, they are not denying that they are working on new hardware, most likely because they don't obviously want investors to panic. And what they could essentially be admitting to is that this year we will see new versions of the Switch launch, it's just not during the June period, which had been the previous rumours. Now we have an update concerning the X570 motherboard situation. You might recall that Amy did put out a video just yesterday where she went through that BioStar had already announced their X570 motherboard and we would be seeing it during Computex. Well, they're not the only one getting in on the act. ASRock are teasing the X570 Phantom Gaming, and you can see from the image that we have on screen that there is indeed a 5 which is superimposed over the motherboard. Of course, technically speaking, the 5 could also be in reference to the 50th anniversary edition CPUs from AMD, or more accurately the 2700X. Just for your FYI, by the way, if you're wondering about the specs of the 2700X 50th anniversary edition, they are identical to that of the vanilla 2700X. The only difference, of course, is that it is a special edition and does have the engraving of Dr. Lisa Su's signature on it. This image also seems to have active cooling on the PCH, although it is kind of difficult to tell because it is only a teaser. So it does look like my sources who have told me that the power delivery for the 500 series boards being of critical importance has been accurate. It's going to be very interesting to see what exactly we see from AMD during Computex, and I don't just mean like in terms of the product launch. I still believe we're going to see the CPUs launch in July, but we're probably going to see an announcement in June. That's what I've been told, but obviously plans can change. As regular viewers will know, and I've reported this a couple of times now, from multiple sources, I've heard that AMD know that technically they can produce a 16-core CPU, but the question is if they want to release a 16-core CPU right now. We know that they are planning at least a 12-core CPU, but the 16-core is causing, apparently, AMD themselves to scratch their head, not because, once again, of a technical limitation, more like, well, if we launch this, A, we have nothing left to shoot over Intel in the future, and B, it's kind of showing all of our products, and therefore we don't have anything left, let's say in 6 months, to build hype again. And the other issue is that it effectively really kills the sales of a lot of their Threadripper processors, particularly as the 2000 series. Yes, later on when we see Castle Peak that will be different, although I still don't have any confirmation regarding the core count for Castle Peak, but we can probably guess it's no longer going to be 32 cores, however we can only wait and see. So Mark Cerny revealing certain key technical details of the PlayStation 5 to Wired came as a bit of a surprise to many people, including myself, honestly. There was like this, am I missing something? Did Sony actually tell us that there was going to be some kind of conference and I somehow let it slipped my mind. I have to admit, there was that like element of head scratching for a second, and it's like, no, it was almost random. However, Jason Schreier, who works over at Kotaku, actually is providing us an explanation as to why. In a tweet, he has told us that if you're wondering why Sony randomly dropped PS5 news last week, one reason is that I hear a bunch of third-party studios got/are getting dev kits this month. Sony knew info would start leaking now, so they just beat everyone to it. Of course, while Sony's announcement does come as a surprise and does provide us some information to the PlayStation 5, a lot of it was info we kind of already knew. Like, I don't think anyone was surprised at all that we saw Zen 2 being featured as the CPU. No one was surprised that Nave was the GPU. This was very well established information. The only thing that did cause any eyebrows to raise, to be honest, was the super duper fast SSD that is inside the system. Oh, and of course the ray tracing support as well. Regular viewers will know I'm currently knee deep in a very in-depth PlayStation 5 analysis video. However, there are once again a couple of interesting things I've actually discovered regarding the PlayStation 5 thanks to patents. So let's start things out, shall we? What we can discuss though is the numerous patents which have been created by members of Sony's team, which are clearly for the purpose of VR and integration. Now, before we go further, it's worth noting that a patent is not confirmation that a feature will ever be released or available at launch. Sony could even be creating this for an entirely different product, but let's face it, that's not particularly likely. Also, because this is more of a news video, I'm not going to be going super in-depth into each of these patents because, well, it would just take way too long, and once again, there is a analysis video coming quite soon. But the first feature I'd like to discuss is a patent by the name of sound localization in an augmented reality view of a live event which is held in a real-world venue. This patent is particularly interesting because it appears that Sony are allowing you to imagine yourself being a spectator of a virtual event. So this would include video games. So you could essentially think of yourself as sitting in a virtual stadium. The patent here is specifically for audio. And the reason that's very interesting is because what Mark Cerny revealed during his discussion with Wired, this would indeed seem to be in reference to the 3D audio chip inside the PlayStation 5. And it will be used to accurately mimic the location of a player in a, quote, virtual world. In other words, with the headset enabled, or sorry, on their head. And there's another one as well. This patent is known as augmenting virtual reality video games with friends' avatars. And this also ties into the previous patent. And we can see that if you go through the steps, that your online avatar can appear in a game. So if you're still unsure what this actually means, or you want help to kind of visualize it, virtual reality visualizing, think of it as a game like, say, Street Fighter or Tekken, or even Gran Turismo, racing game. So stages and tracks, I'm just going to refer to them as stages, have NPCs that appear in the background, right? So let's say you're playing Street Fighter, there's some dude that's in the background cheering as you're beating the snot out of one another. So think of those spectators as a placeholder, as an NPC placeholder. So what you can do with your avatar is essentially jump into the game and replace this NPC with whatever likeness of avatar you have. So let's just say you're a panda bear. So the guy that was sitting there in, you know, his shorts and a t-shirt will be replaced with your panda bear avatar. And then you will be able to watch the match from that perspective, which is very interesting indeed. And indeed, there's even another patent that I've discovered which details seat selection as well, where you can quite literally choose your seat in a virtual environment. So all of that is really cool and does give us an idea of what Sony are planning for the next generation consoles. It's going to be really interesting to see how all of this is implemented. It does appear though that Sony are definitely putting a lot more emphasis on to virtual reality compared to what they did with the PS4. And I will be detailing a lot more information in my upcoming analysis, but it is worth noting that, of course, because the PlayStation 5 is considerably more powerful than the PS4, we should have a much better virtual reality experience. We also have a tweet from Takashi Mochizuki, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, and he has told us that we will not see a new PlayStation launch within the next 12 months, which isn't really a surprise. I personally think we're going to see the PS5 launch in the third or fourth quarter of 2020. However, we also have a few other nuggets of infos. According to him, PS now has an average of 40% annual growth since launch, so now has 700,000 users, and much of the 31.1 billion yen, which is the difference between past FY op versus this financial year's outlook, is going to be invested to develop the next PlayStation console. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you did, well, you know what to do. You can click the likey button because that helps us out big time. And comment below, when do you think the PlayStation 5 is going to launch? You can also find us on social medias, which of course is found in the description of this very video. You can also find us on Patreon and Amazon affiliate links as well. If you want to buy, I don't know, like a new toothbrush or something, then you can go ahead and use the Amazon affiliate links. With all of that said, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.